All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. If you don't know me, and if you only know me from Zoom, which is a lot of you, I'm Jocelyn Bowling Dixon, Director of Newark Public Library. I welcome you to this event marking a momentous day in the library's history. Today is the official opening of the Philip Roth Personal Library. One of America's greatest authors loved this library, and he loved his hometown. He left us books and memorabilia. He also left us endowments to support programs, outreach, and the library's broader needs. This place will be a space of exploration of Roth's ideas, his approach to writing, and his Newark roots, which often appeared in great detail in his books. We believe this beautiful library will light a spark in future generations of young writers. Today, we celebrate this great gift and the people who have brought Philip Roth's vision to life. We offer a special welcome to Mayor Ross Baraka, who has been such a staunch supporter of the library over the years. Let's give him a hand. Thank you. All right. From City Council, we have Councilman McIver. We have a representative from our office, Emily Winslow. I think you're here. You from Daniel's office. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Excuse me if I bungle anybody. I had some last-minute additions, so work with me on it. All right. And David Carter from Councilman Osborne's office. Where's David Carter? Okay, he's here. He's maybe floating around. Council President Crump is unable to attend, but her representative is here. Walter Bryant, is he here? I'm sure he's on his way. We are also delighted to see Superintendent Leon from the Newark Public Schools. I definitely talked to him in person finally. Nice to see you not on Zoom. And it's also wonderful that so many of our board of trustees are here, as well as members of our foundation board. We would not be celebrating today without your support so generously given over the past several years. So let's give our board a hand. Thank you so much, foundation board and library board. I failed to mention Hassan Sabur is also from LaMonica's office and a board member, so I just wanted to point that out too. He wears two hats for us. Thank you. All right, we also welcome the immensely talented people who enabled us to achieve Roth's dream. More from these important guests soon. Now, I'd like to introduce Dr. Lauren Wells, who is president of the Library Board of Trustees. Lauren?
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Wonderful. It's hot in here, but we're going to make our way through it. Thank you for the introduction, Director Dixon. It's a privilege and an honor to welcome all of you here for this day. Mayor, Superintendent, my fellow colleagues on the board. It's great to see you in person. Even though as an introvert, I still might like to be at home. This is the first event on the first day of our reopening. We've been through a historic time together, and we are undoubtedly entering into new ways of being in our world and in our library. So the opening and ribbon cutting for the Philip Roth Personal Library is historic on many levels. We are opening this library as we slowly emerge from a public health pandemic and continue to struggle to figure out how to relieve our city, nation, and world of centuries of racial oppression and white supremacy. I believe the Philip Roth Personal Library can contribute greatly to important conversations within Newark, across the state, given Roth's global audience can also speak to people around the world in places that we cannot predict. As you move through the Philip Roth Library and read the titles of Roth's books, look at his memorabilia, you can see how he and his work move from the personal to Newark, to the nation, and across the world. He wrote about Newark in ways that elevated his perspective on the city and her people around the world. Weequahic High School, led today by Principal Andre Hollis, is known by anyone who reads American Pastoral. The Lenopulation, on whose land we stand and who was removed from Newark, as well as many other states during the last decades of the 18th century by expanding European settler colonists, are not featured. But the placement of Roth's library here in our main library gives us the opportunity to bring his works into exchange with the histories and people of Newark whose stories are less well known and perhaps even told through the perspective of incomplete lenses and without their voices, like the Lenape Nation. It also gives us the opportunity to re-examine inflection points such as the Newark Rebellion. Today, as we open the Roth Library and welcome you and the many patrons that will travel here, we celebrate the opportunity to be local and national, personal and global, curious and critical that Phillips Roth's generous gifts present to us. Because of Roth's bequest, we will be better able to instigate local and statewide dialogue across race, culture, gender, and class, to put his perspective on Newark and the world into dialogue with the perspectives of writers, intellectuals, communities, and residents from Newark, other cities, and nations around the world. It will allow us to build our collections in digital platforms in ways that grow our reach and appeal and that are disruptive to dominant narratives about our great city, its past, and the people who currently live here. I spent some time walking through Roth's personal library a couple of times over the last few weeks. On one occasion, I was having my own personal meltdown from writer's block and read the quotes on the wall in the room and was honestly deeply inspired and reassured by them. So this space will also be of tremendous service to writers trying to move through and make sense of their own writing process. When I joined the board, this process was just getting moving. Tim Chris was the president of the board. Rosemary Steinbaum was the shepherd of all of this work. Nadine Sergioff was tirelessly involved in getting Roth's libraries moved and cataloged without flaw. George Williams guided the project every step of the way through several leadership changes. Tom Alritz led the early stages within the library, and Jocelyn Dixon stepped in the middle of the pandemic to keep it on pace without missing a beat. And as we cross the threshold as a library, we must think about our future while honoring our past. Wilma Gray, director of the library for over 20 years, cultivated the relationship and exchange with Roth and his executor beginning in 2013. She must also be thanked and remembered on this day. Finally, as the president of the Newark Library Board of Trustees, I would like to thank each of my board colleagues for their support of this important project. I also echo Director Dixon's gratitude to the Roth Estate, represented here this afternoon by Julia Golier, the architect Ann Beha, and the construction company Shamut. While I have the privilege of positioning this opening, it is because of these individuals that we are all here today. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our mayor, my mayor, the Honorable Raz Baraka, for his take on the Newark-Roth connection.
Thank you. Finally, it's a long road, right? I remember when people were calling, interviewing us about the beginning, when this was just a thought. But it's an exciting day for the library, exciting day for the city as well. Just want to thank everybody who had a part in making this event possible, making this room possible. And you have to start by thanking Philip Roth himself. He said, of course, that he wanted to donate his books to the library. We never knew it would be all of this. This is a lot more than I think people even anticipated was going to happen, but we are grateful. After his passing, I think that people began to understand why it was really important to make this happen the way it happened. It is also important because Philip Roth is just not a writer, a prolific writer, renowned author that we know from around the country, around the world. He's actually a Newark boy, right? Weequahic section, Weequahic High School, Chancellor Avenue School. He lives in the neighborhood that lived in the neighborhood that I live in now. And it's always important that we get opportunity for Newark people to tell their stories from the perspective of being a child growing up and living in Newark through the ages and times. Different people have different ideas of what Newark means to them. when they start talking about Newark. I think I run into people around the state. I think 1 out of 4 people I talk to are from Newark. They know somebody, they was born here, they was raised here, they want to tell you what block they lived on, where they went to school, where they shopped at. And so this is a familial story that we get to experience Philip Roth's life through this room. And this is more than just a gift to the city. And I think that Dr. Wells pointed out very well. It gives us an opportunity to have some serious dialogue, some discussion, bring people together around what I think is an incredible space. I walked through there, so I think it's an incredible space. It also gives the library something to achieve, right? You see that space, now we gotta do better, we gotta do at least that when we start doing stuff in this library, right? So that's amazing. But more importantly, I think it's important that we celebrate Newark, its journey, its renaissance, where it was, where it was going through, where we are now, through the opportunity to celebrate Philip Roth at the same time. I think we have a great opportunity to do that, and I think it's even more important to do that in the time period that we're living in. That this came now is incredibly, incredibly important that we talk about it, right? It is serendipitous even that we begin to open this up on the first day that the library is opening up in the middle of this pandemic as we come to a close and all of the things that are happening in this country and around the world, that we begin to come straight ahead and face and discuss the things that are happening. And it's a great opportunity to do that, reading and studying Philip Roth's works. I'm glad the superintendent is here. I'm sure students from Newark Public Schools will get an opportunity to traverse this room, to read the material, to talk about being a writer. I just want to close on that. I come from a family of writers. I'm a writer myself, and it is important to get people to write, because writing is how you express your ideas, right? It's how you get your ideas out, your thoughts, your imagination, your beliefs. And as Dr. Wells pointed out, sometimes people get stuck. They feel like they cannot express their stories the right way, or they feel like their story isn't worth expressing. And so it's important that we use this as an opportunity to lift the library up, but also lift the city up and lift the Roth family up at the same time. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. God bless you. Godspeed to everybody.
Thank you so much for those words, Mayor. It's very inspiring. And we really appreciate your ongoing support of the library and all you've done for Newark. So thanks again. So next, we'll be hearing from Ann Beha of Ann Beha Architects. Her firm has created projects for many academic, civic, and cultural organizations. The team's commitment to the intersection between tradition and innovation made them the right choice for the Roth Personal Library. We're so pleased that Ann is with us today. Ann?
Thank you, Jocelyn, and thank you all. I think any one of you could be up here talking about what you gave to this project. It wasn't created just by an architect or a good exhibit designer. It was created by so many of the people in this room, and of course by the donor himself, and by those who were, if you will, advancing the idea that telling stories through the lens of one particular extraordinary writer would be something that would be really beneficial to the community. And when you get to design something like that, you're reminded that that's basically why you went to architecture school, is to work on projects that would make a difference. So in working on libraries, you get a lot of really great things to do, like the mayor was talking about, and I too was very moved by what you said. The first thing is, you usually get a really great building to work on, because libraries have been the kind of soul of their communities architecturally for so many decades. And this building is almost 125 years old. And I think I heard your mayor saying that maybe this project might be a catalyst for increased attention to the potential of this building. And I'm all in. I also think that it's fascinating to think about a contemporary person and a contemporary set of issues lodged into a building created that long ago. And that moves us forward because we're thinking not only about the historical setting, but also about contemporary ideas and the way in which this generation will explore telling their stories. So I want to acknowledge that no one person ever makes something like this. And in this case, from our own firm, my partner Tom Hoteling was the principal in charge and such a great leader for this. He reminded me that this team of people, and many of you are on that team, met for 2 years every Tuesday at 9 o'clock in the morning, right through the pandemic, to make this happen. That's a huge team effort, and the kind of continuity really contributed to the teamwork. And David Alger, who's here, and Carl Damas, and others at ABA who've worked on other things at the Newark Public Library feel honored to have worked on this building. So when you see the room, try to imagine with me what it was like when Tom and I first saw it. And David, you came and saw it shortly thereafter. It was a storage room. And you had to move between the books and the furniture and everything else to be able to see that original paneling was still there, that the original windows were still there, that somewhere above that dropped acoustic ceiling, there must be something really nice. And so the project was kind of an excavation, first of all, to find out what we were dealing with. And the Newark Public Library archives and the research groups here in Newark were so instrumental in helping us reconstruct an image of what the original architecture was. And then once you know what you're dealing with, you sort of have the patient on the table, then you know what you're going to do. But you have to first honor that history and try to put it back together so that the building itself is part of the teaching and education. So this project is about that. It's about both retrieving the past and then installing, thanks to Jonathan and many of you, a really robust exhibition and engagement with the materials. And in a nutshell, it's just a pleasure and an honor to work on a project like this. I want to thank you so much for it. And I want to also say that we appreciate having had access to Philip Roth's home in Connecticut as part of the inspiration. And as Tom said, he went there on a snowy December afternoon when the light was pouring in the windows. And what he loved about it was the simplicity and the fact that these contemporary pieces of furniture and books and kind of appurtenances were living so happily in a very, very historic house without any level of pretension, just like they belonged there. And that to him suggested that this room also should have a kind of simplicity that I hope will really endure. The builders, of course, Shawmut, you did a great job, and our engineer, of course, John Rice was great. If you see the systems, well, you won't see the systems because John is an artist as well as an engineer, and he wove them in beautifully. So in short, I think it's come together. I hope it's a catalyst for the future. And I thank you so much for inviting us to work on it, because in the end of the day, we think libraries are all about access and democracy and embracing the community. And that's what you're doing every day here. So thanks a million. It was really a great experience. So much appreciated. Jonathan, thank you.
All right. So just a quick note, Councilwoman McIver is here. I heard she just wanted, hi, thank you so much for coming. And then I just want to clarify and acknowledge that Emily Winslow is from Councilman James' office and is also here. So just wanted to clean that up. So thanks again. Thank you, Karen. And we so appreciate your comments and your involvement in this important project. Thank you for that trip down from Boston. So I hope the flight was good, and we appreciate you being here. Next, Jonathan Alger of C&G Partners will describe how the design team created the room's exhibitions and graphics. It was based on careful research as well as an understanding of the man and how he thought, wrote, and read. Well, I was going to say, Jonathan, please come up, but you're right here. So pass it to you, Jonathan. Give Jonathan a hand. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Alger. I'm the managing partner of C&G Partners in New York City. We are a design firm on a mission to bring the power of design to the nonprofit and public sector. It has been a great honor to be of service to this great library, led by a great board, a great director, who leads a great staff, one of whom I'm going to hold up as a paragon of virtue momentarily, but it has also been a great privilege to be of service to this great city, led by this great mayor, and by these great councilmen and women, superintendents, and other officials we're so happy to see here today. I want to make a brief comment about one of the members of the staff here. Everybody here has expressed that this has been a labor of love for anyone. When you are shelving thousands of books in the bookcases that we designed, you must have fortitude, grit, and a healthy supply of white cotton gloves. And Nadine Sergeyev, who's in the back, she's the archivist here, had all of those and more. And I just would like to mention that last week we were here focusing the lighting so that it would look beautiful for all of you today in that room. And I mentioned offhandedly, wouldn't it be nice if all of the books, which Nadine had already shelved, thousands of them, all of them were moved forward a little bit to be even with the front edge of the shelves. And Nadine said, that's a good idea. And she proceeded to move every single one of the books 1 inch forward. That's the kind of commitment that we've seen here at the Newark Public Library, and it has been absolutely great. I'm not going to stand too long between you and this ribbon cutting, so I will just summarize in a way that probably won't surprise you. This is great.
Jonathan, thank you so much. Charville Patel is Director and Regional Sector Lead of Shawmut Design and Construction. Shawmut handled the renovation of the room and updated critical systems to keep the Roth Library safe and secure. They also did so much more, given that they were working on a 100-year-old plus building. Charville, the podium is yours. Give me a hand.
Thank you, everyone, for coming in today. I'm going to be even more brief than everyone. To the folks that we've worked with to make this place a reality, from Jocelyn Dixon to George Williams, Ann Beha, Thomas Hotelling, David Elzer, and John Rice, and of course my own team, Samantha Caratero, who was the lead superintendent here, Megan Riley, Michael Conterzi, and Peter Walsh. It took a community to bring the Philip Roth Personal Library into existence, from nurturing an idea to creating the vision of a space to bringing that space into reality, and now I'm very happy to say very shortly to use the Philip Roth Personal Library. Thank you.
Charville, thank you so much. And last but not least, you mentioned Sam, and she's Sam to us, Samantha Caratero of Shawmut. She's great, and one thing I enjoyed about her is she was like a lady foreman, and I don't, a female foreman, you don't see that too often, and she really handled it. So is Sam here? Was Sam able to come? No. So, okay. We just wanted to know how much we appreciate her calm, friendly competence in her role as superintendent of the project. She was with us nearly every day, bringing plans to life. So Sam, we thank you wherever you are. So now, the moment we've been waiting for, I'd like to ask everyone to join me at the door of the Philip Roth Personal Library, where we will cut the ribbon and invite you to see this magnificent space. Thank you.